Canine Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Grubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists.
It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Canine Detection Collaborative. I'm Robin Grubel, and I'm here with Stacy Barnett.
Hello.
And Crystal Wing.
Howdy.
And we thought we would take the opportunity and hit a little pause on some of the deep, learning things that we're hopefully giving to you guys and do a little fun episode on story time. And so this is going to be an opportunity for actually each one of us to ask the other person questions. And so it's like, tell me about your dog when, right? So I'm going to ask the first question, and I want to know, when was one of the most proud moments you've ever had with one of your very first dogs? My very first dog was Talon. He was a sable border collie that I got because I was finishing my MBA program. And I actually have two short stories. Sorry, I know, right?
Hey, there are no rules. We set our own rules here.
I know, right? No rules. So the very first time I was super proud of him, all of the time, because he was the best dog ever and the best teacher. But one of it was in training, and I had been training him to be a wilderness live find search dog for about 6 years at this time. And I had gotten onto Iowa Task Force 1, and they sent us to Texas to go through disaster dog training. And Talon was a find-refind dog. So that means he'd go out and he'd find the person, and he'd run back, he'd lay down, and I'd say, show me, and then he'd take me back to the subject. Well, in the FEMA system and the disaster system, you're actually supposed to have a bark and hold. So we get down there and we're doing bark barrels, and Talon does his little find-refind, and I have the person in charge kind of look at me and say, you need a bark and hold on your dog. And I kind of went, oh, okay. So that night, and Talon didn't bark unless it was a stranger. I put a bark on cue, and I told the people hiding in the barrel the next day to, when he got to the barrel, to tell him to speak, and then on one bark, give him his Frisbee. And by the end of the week, so we were actually technically only there for 4.5 days, he was running up on the pile, finding people, and he'd sit down next to the barrel, turn to face me because he knew I was coming up and over with his toy, and he'd bark 3 times and then sit there and wait. He was just brilliant. And then to segue off of that, all the rest of the time in the wilderness areas, he would literally do a find-refind, but if he was too near what he thought was an actual rubble pile, he would stay and bark. And I have no idea how he made the distinction on when to do what, but he was flipping brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the other, oh my God, I was so proud of him moment. We were working a case with a couple of college kids who were partying and had accidentally cut themselves on a bottle. We didn't know this at the time, but that's what happened. But what we ended up finding was him. We had to go search. We had a blood trail leading back into a park. So all the kids were fine. Fast forward to the end of the story, kids are fine. But we didn't know this. So we had a blood trail that led into a park. So I send him where the law enforcement lost the blood trail, and I told him to go find. And he went up to put his nose down, laid down, And I walk up and all I see is a single blood drop on a leaf lying in between his front feet. And I looked at him and said, "Good boy, go find another." And he gets up and he walks a few more steps, puts his nose down, pulls his head up, looks at me. I walk over and I look and there's a blood drop on a blade of grass. And I look at him and say, "Good boy, go find another." And so he follows this blood trail by nose on a blood drop, turns and looks at me. I acknowledge it. And he goes and finds another, all the way back to where we found the kids' backpacks and broken bottle of Jack Daniels and a couple of other things. And then we got the phone call that, hey, the kids are fine. So, that was one of those mind-blowing experiences where I was like, oh, they are so capable of things that we don't even understand. So, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So your guys' turn.
So as far as when we're proud of our dogs, so this is a little bit of a different proud of. So rather than being proud of how brilliant they are, which I think is very suitable and appropriate and everything, this is going to take a little bit of a different perspective. I've talked about why before. So when, and it's very interesting because this actually triggered in my mind because my Facebook memories came up recently and there was a picture of why after he earned his ORTs. And he was he looked like this little afraid dog. He's in his crate because he was too afraid to take a picture out of the crate. And there he is with the chicken nuggets. And someone actually made a comment like, "Oh, if that was my dog, those chicken nuggets would be gone." And I'm like, he was stressed. So just going and doing and he only needed that one container search that day because he had already gotten birch and cloves. So it was just anise. So to get that anise search, that one container, and he went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, right? It really took so much out of him because he really, really, he's a very sensitive dog. So he looked like this kind of nervous dog, which is, when you compare to how he looked like when he got his NW3 Elite, it was totally different because now he's got his dog, he's got his big smile and everything. So the day I was super, I've been proud of him every day he actually searches. I really am. But I just remember I was trying so hard. First of all, I was super stoked when he got his NW1. I was I didn't think he'd ever get his NW1, right? This is the story with his dog. I'm always thinking oh, that dog will never get that. Oh, that dog will never. And then he does. So we were going for NW2 and I would enter an NW2 if I was going to be if I could get into that, I could get into something else. Because basically, I wasn't going to haul him all over the country trying to find an NW2. And it took us, he would be fine for a couple searches. Then all of a sudden he goes, "Nope, can't do this, tap out." Right. And then fast forward, I think it was our 8th try at NW2. This is where, really, it took a long time. We're in Gunnison, Colorado. And he goes out and he had a stellar day. Every single search was confident. At the end of the day, not only did he get, I think it was 3rd overall, the title, he got his little overall pronounced ribbon. So he was pronounced in all 5 searches.
Wow.
And he was confident in all 5 searches.
Nice.
And I was like, my little boy just got a pronounced ribbon. And it was just the most incredible. It was he was just kind of waiting for the brilliance, right, to come out in the one trial and for all the stars to align. And he was just incredible. He didn't really want to search too much for about 2 years after that because I lost Judd. But then they got back into it and now he has his NW3 Elite. And I have to tell you, he's just a totally different dog. And just to see the transformation between that day when he passes ORTs and he's kind of nervous and scared and didn't really want that chicken nugget because he was I'm just that's just too much for me, to the point where he got his NW3 Elite with a 3rd overall and everything. I'm just just watching him that. I can't be more proud of a dog. He just makes my heart melt. Just,
Aww.
Yeah, I know. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a little sappy.
That's okay.
Yeah. Take sappy all day long. I like happy stories.
I know. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Crystal? What your story?
So Proud of our first dog.
Or first thereof. I mean, he wasn't really my first dog, but it was just something I was just really, really proud of.
Okay. So not first dogness. Okay. I don't know if this was a proud moment. It's mixed feelings in this one. Okay. Can I do two stories too then? Because Robin told two
Sure.
stories.
Yes, you can.
So one of my proud moments was when my Dutchie Yukon chose me. And I know that probably sounds so silly, but we had that really slow maturing, slow start. And when I finally found the thing that made his motor run, that goofy Go Dog fur balls that I really built hard, like I had to start with something, and I started with the Chuck It, and then I was able to take the Chuck It down to something a little smaller, like a half Chuck It stick, and I cut the end off, and then I took it down to just the Chuck It ball, and I took it to a dryer ball. And then for some reason, I went from a dryer ball to a fur ball, and then went up to an entire big fur ball. But I don't know why I did that to myself. But then
The beach ball.
I built crazy, crazy love. Exactly. But I was just so proud of him for working with me and realizing that we both could be such a great team. And it was this moment that I saw that we actually had this thing that we could do together now. And that was just such an amazing feeling. If I go along with the idea of amazing feeling, I'm going to go back to when he was 18 weeks old. He was a rock star puppy, and his breeder had taught him that heroin is going to give him lots of rewards if he finds that odor. And not that if he does heroin, but just if he finds it. And so,
Well,
I know that kind of explains so much about Yukon
it
now.
does, but
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Just want to make sure I word that properly. So some people say imprinted or whatever, but I'm just going to say that his breeder taught him to find it and to indicate on it. And it was just to freeze. And so at 6 weeks, so fast forward, I have him at 18 weeks old, and we're just going down to the Quickie Mart, and we would go there often. It's a half-mile walk from the house, and it was just the perfect amount of environmental and giving him, and the Quickie Mart people loved me, and they'd let me bring my puppy in, which you're not really supposed to, but they did, and they loved him, and they would give him treats and such, and I could work on all the things. And on our way there, there's really tall grass in front of this house, and he stopped just dead in his tracks. And this is at 18 weeks old. So already it was at 6 weeks that, he learned this and hadn't done any more. Dead in his tracks, just stopped. And I'm like, all right, buddy, come on. And I'm pulling his leash, and he is having nothing to do with it. He is just stopped. Like, do not pull me away. And I'd never seen him be that committed to something. And I thought, okay, there's probably cat poop or there's raccoon poop or something. So I reached my hand.
Did you have an accidental blind hide?
Well, oh yeah. So I kind of reach my hand to try to move the grass a little bit, and I don't see anything. And it's a neighbor that doesn't mow his grass, and it's right across from the Quickie Mart. It's behind a little car dealership thing. And so I'm reaching around and I'm trying to see, and I can't see anything, and I feel something. So I pick it up, and it's a needle. And so I found this syringe, and it still had the needle on it. And then I'm thinking, oh crap. So what do I do with this? Some crazy lady standing on the sidewalk holding a syringe with a puppy. And Yukon's looking at me like, come on, lady, give me the good stuff. I found it. And so it's kind of a two-part, because it's the sadness that heroin is such a thing, and then it's in my neighborhood. I mean, I know it is. But it's just so cool that this 18-week-old puppy that hadn't had any interaction with this odor, that he had barely even really started on 12 weeks ago, could do this. So I guess that would be a memorable or proud moment. I was so impressed. And then I had to go thin the needle and throw it in the dumpster. But yeah, that was a cool thing with Yukon.
Wow. So it's interesting. It's like all the dogs really just, sometimes they surprise us with what they can do. And which gets me to a question that I kind of thought of just like off the cuff, that sometimes when dogs do stuff, it just surprises us, like their capacity to learn something or to do something. And I think I would like to know from you guys, and of course, and I'll go first because I think that's the format that we're doing here. But
yes, please.
We're making this up.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So when your dog did something or learned something that just like shocked you. So I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story about Joey. This is actually not a detection story. This is about Joey. He was my standard poodle. And this is for a long time ago. This is way before nose work. This is pre-nose work for me. And I had Joey. I had 3 boys at the time. So I had Joey, I had Judd, and I had Y. And I was trying to work on agility with Judd and with Y. Y, I had gotten him initially to do agility, and then he turned out to be epileptic. And I'm like, you know what? You're doing agility. Epilepsy is probably not a good fit for agility because you never know when that's going to happen. So, but at the time, this is pre-seizure. So I was doing weave pulls, and I would do weave pulls. And at the time, I called Joey the freeloader, right? And I don't know if I've told the story before, because I tell this story often. Have I told the story? You guys are saying yes. I'm still going to say the story again. I'm going to tell the story again.
Yes.
Because it was so amazing, and because not everybody listens to every episode. Anyway, but what was amazing is, so Joey would go through the weaves to get a cookie. Wyatt go through the weaves to get a cookie. Joey didn't really do a whole lot at that time, but he looked at me, he looked at the weaves, and he just like, all of a sudden, here it is, 6 pulls in a row. Anybody who knows how to do agility knows that that's a really complicated skill to teach. He enters, first pull on his left shoulder, does all 6 pulls. And what was amazing, it was just really, he looked at me, he's like, where's my cookie? And then there's like an expletive after that. I knew there was the expletive. And then I said a few expletives and I started to feed him. And then he never did it again, because it was just like, hey, I could do the thing. But what amazed me was how dogs can learn by watching other dogs. And it's the whole social learning, that the capacity, it is literally saying, oh, I see how you're doing that, and then mimicking that. And it was just really fascinating. Really, really fascinating. So I know I've told this story before because I love this story, but hey, if you don't listen to all of our episodes, you need to go back and listen to all of them. So there you go.
So here's my Yukon story for that. I didn't have to teach him a drop or an out. He watched Quinn, and that was it. I mean, I just said drop, and he had a way in the yard with Quinn at the same time, and they both just here. So Quinn had done it a couple times, and then Yukon came over with his toy, and they just both spat it out at the same time. Okay. and for me, drop means just drop whatever's in your mouth, and out means, or mine means, to let go of it when it's in my hand. And so I threw both of their toys. They both came back. I'm tugging with Yukon in the right, Quinn in the left, and I said mine, and they both let go of that toy and shot backwards. And like, what just happened? This 18-week-old puppy has a drop and a mine that are just beautiful. And they've
had you can find heroin.
Yeah, you can drop a toy, out a toy, and find heroin at 18 weeks.
Woohoo!
I have found there's that up to about 18 weeks, I feel like there's so much mimicry that really does happen. And that was just one of the examples that I've seen just with him. But that's such a great example. It just blows my mind of how much social learning there is.
Yeah.
Robin's turn. Okay, it doesn't have to be about that, obviously.
And mine's not about social learning. Mine is actually about a jump in generalization. So Talon, again, Mr. Brilliant, I trained him for live find work, put out cadaver odor. I had probably had him exposed to it 3-4 times. And I was like, well, I wanted to put more nose time on him before we ran up into it. And so he's doing his whole little border collie circle things. He goes out, and all of a sudden he disappears, and he disappears into the area where I had the human remains hide. And I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen with that? And the next thing I know, he comes running back to me and does his complete find, refind behavior sequence for me on an odor that I had never asked him to do it on before. And so I was like, show me. And he takes off back. And I'm just like, no way. Right. And I run up there, and he's laying down right next to cadaver odor where he's supposed to doing. And I was like, dude, you just rewrote like 5 clauses in the contract on how smart you are. And because basically he generalized that whole come back, lie down, wait for mom to say, show me, into anything for alive or cadaver. If mom was out of sight, that it just meant come with me and I will help pinpoint it for you. Yeah. So
Wow.
it was brilliant. So
Wow.
that was,
dogs are so brilliant.
they are.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, I guess it's my question time.
It is.
Yes, it is.
So I was just thinking, think back to one of your first competitions or deployments and tell that story.
Oh. Okay, you first though. You have to go first because you're,
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's okay.
Because that's the format.
Yeah, it's a format. So mine, I believe it was on Thanksgiving Day or possibly the day after. I think it was that day. And it was my very first search, and I'm a flanker or field support, and my job is to help the handler and read the dog and make sure the environment is safe. And there's a bridge in the St. Louis area that unfortunately a lot of people decide to take their life from. And so we have the bloodhound out, and they have the person that's missing, their car is there. And so I got to watch, and I hadn't really had a chance to witness this firsthand. Like, you hear stories, but to actually be there in person. And I didn't realize too on searches that there's families there so often. So the loved ones are there, the detective is there. Like, those are all things I didn't expect. And that definitely adds a whole new level to it. And the bloodhound goes over and gets the scent article from the car and goes over and starts doing the search, and he's trailing. He goes right over to this bench and he lingers at this bench. So every time he lingers, it really kind of shows that there was more odor there, and he would kind of work for a second. And then he started going up the bridge, and then he went to the right-hand railing, and then he climbed up the railing. And so I put the marker tape there because it was the first time that he went up. Then he kept going up to the middle-ish of the bridge, and there's like another bench area off to the left. And he went to the bench area and he sniffed that for a second. And then he went across the other side and he climbed up to the handrail and he sniffed the handrail. And then he stepped back down and he looked at his trainer and was just like, that's it. I'm done. Where's my cookie? And it was just this moment of going, holy cow, I think I just watched someone's last footprints. Like, that was,
Wow.
it just really was so powerful for me.
Wow.
And then to turn around and see his loved ones that were there, watching this, but it felt like it gave them closure, like almost instant.
Wow.
Like, they didn't have to ask questions anymore. And again, it was on Thanksgiving Day. It was so cold, and that's what happened. So we found out a couple weeks later, he did show up in a town very far away down the river. But it was just a powerful moment to watch the dog work. Wow. And experience kind of the past, only right now. Yeah. And so that was a very powerful, first search experience for me.
Wow. Go.
Anyone care to share theirs?
It's Robin's turn, because I think we're going clockwise. So we can see each other, so we're
right.
going clockwise.
Oh. Clockwise.
I was just
like, no, she's downstairs.
Yeah. I think one of my very first searches, at least I remember and catalog this as like one of my first searches. I don't think Talon was even operational at that point, but it ties in later. Was for a 4-year-old boy named Brendan Gonzalez who disappeared. And we actually spent a lot of time looking for this wonderful little boy over, it turned out to be several weeks, which then turned into several months. And it turned out that one of the first searches, or some of the first searching that Talon and I did, was in a landfill, because we believed that that's where Brendan had ended up, because his dad thought he was possessed by Satan, and he was murdered. We have yet to recover his body. And it's also the first time and the last time I will ever work a landfill with my cadaver, with any dog. Because, oh my God, just look in the trash as to what you throw away, and then imagine several million people doing the same thing and asking your dog to work over the top of it. But
Wow.
that was, and my team was really good at the time. We did several critical incident stress debriefings after, not only for us, but for the law enforcement that were involved. They did arrest the dad, and I believe he's in a mental health institution, hopefully still. But yeah, it was, so yeah, that was my first case.
Wow.
That's a big
I'm
one.
going to make it a little bit more, going to bring the levity up a little bit,
That'd be great.
because you guys did some really serious, like that was deep, man. And I huge respect for anybody who is doing that type of work. It's a major respect, guys. That just really, it just chills, right? So I'm going to bring the levity up a little bit, because I'm going to talk about competition where we're not working
That's
at,
okay.
it's, but it is.
That's what I love about the collaboration.
Me too. And it's the mutual respect, which I absolutely love. And I love both of you. So, so I would say, I'm not going to talk about my very first trial with Judd. I'm going to talk about my second one. So the very first one was NW1, and he got through that. And I was so proud of him. It was great. And then I remember I had put in actually 2 entries for NW1 at that time, because just in case I didn't pass one, I wanted to make sure I could, So I remember emailing my, of course, she wasn't my coach at the time, Karen, and asking her, and telling her, hey, we titled, so we got to pull out, right? And she said to me, she goes, well, I don't know where you are with your training, but there's a really short wait list in the NW2. And I'm like, really? So I entered that. I came up on the wait list. I got in. So this is I don't know, a month or 2 after I got my NW1, which was a little crazy. And we didn't really have a whole lot of experience at the time. I think it was just a month after our NW1. So we go, and he was doing great. And we get to this one search. It was our second interior. And oh my gosh, I think it was the second interior. There were 2 hides. We knew there were 2 because it was on W2, and we're searching, and I was sweating it. I was really sweating it. And it was the clock was ticking down. Finally, call the hide. The hide was in the tampon dispenser on the wall, which for an NW2, actually now that's kind of advanced for an NW2, that. This is a hide you don't necessarily see. But I have to say, I got it. He ended up titling, and I was so proud of him that day. NACSW now, they have released, or they released a lot of the videos, their official trial video from back in the early days that you could buy. And this is back in 2014. I think that this happened. I think it was 2014. And I got the video, and I have to tell you, oh my gosh, the amount of, he indicated the hide several times before, and I'm like, I didn't get it, because I didn't have those 1,000 dog eyes, right? I didn't know what he was telling me. And I'm starting to panic, and I'm directing him, and I'm getting him. And he's he told me that, and finally come back and he shows me again. Right. But the amount of tolerance that dog showed me, and my complete inability to really handle him very well. He just, what a superstar he was. What a good boy. I was directing, ignoring, crowding. You name it. And he ended up titling. But that was one of my first, I just remember that was the first time I really sweat a search. I really sweat it. So that's why it kind of sticks in my head.
I think, can I add one more happy part to my story then?
Yes.
Yeah. Happy is good.
Yeah. So I'm a high school art teacher, and I'm also the art club sponsor. And the kids knew that I was kind of off when we came back from Thanksgiving break. And that next art club back, we're so in tune with each other. My art club's like my little art family, it's the kids that kind of don't fit into other areas. They come to art club, and it's our little misfit area. I love them so much. They don't have to be good at art. They just have to helping and being arty, whatever. And so I told them about my first search, and they had heard about, I think it was like a teenager, I think in the UK. I'll have to find the article again, but they have a bridge there that's kind of a similar thing. And she was putting little signs of hope and inspiration. And so my art club was like, oh, we totally want to do that. And so every art club, whenever they have downtime, they just make new little signs. And then I take them to the library and laminate them. And then usually once a month I head out to the bridge and I just make sure that there's some different signs at both ends that just have little inspirational things. And it's amazing how many of those are, taken. And so it makes me think that maybe we're making a difference there too.
Oh,
So
that's
the kids
fantastic.
really,
Wow.
yeah, it's something the kids really enjoy doing. And so I make sure I go back and, it's about a 45-minute drive from the house. So I try to go out there, at least once a month and just make sure that there's new signs up. And even if it's just the old ones are all still there, I'll add some new or replace the old ones. So it was really great that, a kid in the UK inspired, our kids here in Missouri, and hopefully they're making a difference.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I thought since you brought some levity to it, I'd add some more kind of heart.
I did that. So Robin, it is I think going clockwise. I think
So it's my turn to ask a question. Okay.
Yep.
So
Sure.
tell me about a time where you and Stacy, this might be a little like you're like, oh my God, I do this all the time. But a time where you could read your dog's body language, but due to exhaustion or something, they couldn't tell you. And so my example is Moses's last FEMA certification. He was 10 and a half. And I drove all the way out to Ohio. And for FEMA level certification, you have to do 2 tests. They are 20 minutes apiece with a 10-minute break in between. And you have 2 huge piles. One, you have full access. You can walk all over it and you can go find the people. The other one, you don't have access to, and you have to send them off to go do stuff. So we get to the very last hide. Moses was this golden retriever, yellow lab mix who had more hair than most of my current dogs combined. And
I can also attest to this.
Yes. And
I got to meet him as a very old dog.
Yes. I mean, he was like the abominable snowman of dogs.
He
like
was
with
sweet.
hair.
Oh, that's a great one. Like a toasted
crazy.
marshmallow.
And so I sent him up on the pile. He found everybody on the first pile, and on the second pile, and in order to be able to successfully tag that subject, the dog has to bark 3 times. And so on the second pile, he finds the first 2, and the second subject, he gives me 1 bark and then 2 more really fast soft barks. And so I could get up on the pile and I could see what he's doing. And I told him, good boy, gave him some water, sent him off to go find. And he is standing. I can still picture this in my mind's eye, right? He's standing just up on the crust of the pile. And he's got his nose down and he picks his nose up and he looks at me. And he's got this nice, slow tail wag.
Oh,
I know. And I look at the evaluator and I said, there's my next subject, but he's too tired, but I can read him. And he looks at me, he's like, I can totally read him too. But I can't give you that subject until he barks. And I'm like, it's okay. We passed. And then bless that dog's heart. I got home and I had noticed that he was limping. And I took him into the chiropractor. He had done that entire test with his pelvis out.
Oh,
I remember seeing him take a couple of spills on the pile. And I'm like, that's not normal for him. Something's going on. And his chiropractor was like, Robin, I don't know how he was functioning. And she's like, this is going to hurt. And I could hear the thump when she put it back into place. And yeah, he was fine after that until at the age of 12 when he tore his ACL chasing cows in the backyard. But so yeah, that was my,
of course he did.
yeah, that was my little, oh my God. Yeah. My dog, I guess maybe the question is, tell me about a time when your dog has shown heart.
Yeah.
Lots of heart.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to go back. Now you changed the question, so now I like that throws me off. So I'm going to kind of answer it in my own way, because I'm just going to bastardize the question. So I'm going to tell you it's about a story where both Judd and I were exhausted, and I had to read him, and it was emotional. And I was like, oh my gosh. So as he got older, I started to see he started to slow down in his searching. And I just had this like horrible, like, I don't know. I didn't know he had cancer at the time. He did actually have cancer at the time. I didn't know it. I was seeing him slow down, and it was very upsetting for me because, you have all these years of, this time with the dog that you just kind of, you wanted to just stay amazing and great for the rest of their life. I didn't know he had cancer. He was still amazing, but I didn't know he had cancer. And we were at a summit trial. It was at Kennebunkport, Maine, up at the seaside, or it was a trolley and bus museum. It was an amazing place to have a trial. And this was the spring of 2019. And he had this trial. And then a few weeks later, he had one more summit trial. And then I went to Europe for a month. I came back, and then he was diagnosed with cancer. So he had cancer, and I didn't know it. It was the second day. So it was our very last search. So we're talking the 8th search of the weekend. And I didn't think at this time, I had enough points to title. And I was just like, oh, he's slowing down. I don't think I have enough points to title. I'm like, I know I need to pick up like 2 more hides, right? We get to our last search, and he's searching. And he's searching, and we didn't have a ton of time, but he's given me nothing. He just felt, it just felt broken. There was a flagpole. He's kind of looking up the flagpole. Now you guys are going to laugh because this kind of build off of our last episode that we just talked about. And I'm like, I'm just not getting anything. Finally, out of desperation, I just call finish. It was a blank area. Our very last search, it was a blank area.
Oh my gosh. Bless his heart.
Yeah. And he's like, he's not going to false. He wasn't going to false. He wasn't going to false. But he's looking at the flagpole. He's like, I got nothing for you. And so here I was thinking, and he was a blank area. So we passed that search. We got, now they would give you 10 points. We got 5 points for that search because that's what the rules were. And he titled.
Yeah.
He titled.
Nice. And
it was just this but I walked out of there feeling, and we were both exhausted. And I just walked out of there feeling awful. Right?
Yeah.
I felt so horrible, right? I felt so awful. And I'm like, oh, my dog's slowing down in there. He's telling me, hey, it's blank. Blank.
But lady. Yeah.
Hello, it's blank. Yeah. So that's my story.
So going along the lines of your dog showing a lot of heart, of course, I have to think about Quinn. He's my unicorn boy. And using it kind of along the detection lines, he was a protection sport guy. And so then at, I think it was around 9, he had Lyme disease, Ehrlichia, and Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and he almost died. He's supposed to be around 58 pounds fighting weight, and he dropped down to 48 pounds. I mean, he really,
wow.
It was Thanksgiving time. I told my parents they needed to say goodbye. It was rough. And we pulled him through, lots of doxy, lots of treatment. Then he ended up with inflammatory bowel disease, probably from the doxy. And so then he almost died again. So the poor dog, has just been a fighter. And some of the things that we've done since his decline in health, because we can't do protection sports clearly. And UConn knocked all of his teeth out with a board. So there's that. Poor dog's been through a lot.
Yeah.
And he had cataracts when he was born that are on the back of the lens. And so now he's also blind. So now I have this 12-year-old, really active, still wants to conquer the world Malinois, who is just unbelievable. He shows me so much heart every day. And so some of the ways he does that, I found those rec spec glasses. And so that has absolutely opened the world to us because he's still going to go 100 miles an hour. He's still going to go where he wants to go, and he's going to run into whatever he wants to run into. And a leash is not something he enjoys. So he wants to be free because that's Quinn. And I can relate in so many ways. He is my spirit animal. Freedom without a leash. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, doesn't that describe me a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Van
so some of
life.
the things we've done that shows his heart is I would take one of the dogs hiking first on a leash on a trail. And we would go do like a mile trail. And then I'd bring them back in a loop. And then I would get Quinn next. And without a leash, with his rec specs on, he would follow the same trail because he was following what we had previously just done. And it was so cool to watch this old dog, this blind dog, navigate these trails 100% based on where we just went. And he could just
Wow.
do this immediately. I didn't teach him that.
Wow.
Now, granted, he has an
Wow.
IPO3, so he understands footprint tracking, but this is different. This is a
Right.
trailing kind
Yeah.
of thing. And if there was a dog or somebody coming, I would say Foos, and he would come back to my side, just like old times. Like there's nothing better than a dog that has that beautiful heel position that when you say Foos or OP or OPA or whatever, I say OP with checkmates. That's why.
Yeah, it's that old comfortable shoe, right? That you're just like,
It is. There's
"Oh."
nothing better than that. And he just gets in that perfect spot and looks up like he can still see me. And it's just
Oh.
this heaven.
Yeah.
And the other thing that he does now is he's the cleanup crew. So I might be a tad forgetful, and we tend to get done training because I might like to train a little, and it's after dark almost always. And so Quinn is always a cleanup crew. I always send him out and just say, go find it. And he goes and looks in all the places we've been, and almost always he will find a ball or a tug. He found our leather sleeve, a leather pillow. He found a sleeve we left behind once. He found a stick we left behind once. I mean, he is the ultimate cleanup crew. So, I know it's detection related, because of how
Yeah.
he does it now. But, that dog, he has so much heart. I just will never, he's amazing.
He's the one that you said that when he's sleeping, you can tell him to do the bark and hold. And,
It'll still work.
Oh my gosh. I can totally manipulate his dreams. It is the coolest thing.
You got to tell people this because this is incredible.
Oh, it makes me so evil though.
It's so funny. Just tell it. Tell it.
So he's dreaming and he will start to run. And you know how dogs will do that. He'll start to run, or he'll start to kind of make little barky sounds. And I can usually kind of tell what kind of dream he's having, whether it's a good dream or a bad dream. I don't know, maybe it just feels like it. And so you can kind of tell when he's in a protection type dream. And so there's been several times that I'll just say, Quinn, Revere. And him in his little dream. This like muffled barking.
Yeah, is that
So Revere means bark at the bad guy in the blind.
Okay.
And
I
so
just wanted to-
he kind of gets this like little muffled barking kind of thing that he'll do. And I'll say, here, Foos. And he'll run his little feet. And, I'll tell him all kinds of stuff. And you can see, and he even does like the chompiness. So if I tell him, I'm like, get him or bite, and his little mouth will start chomping and his little eyeballs start twitching. And
But he's doing it at,
Oh.
3-year-old Quinn level in his head. So that's the
for
important thing.
sure. Yeah. He doesn't
Yeah.
know he's 12. He's like,
No.
I have teeth and I'm big and I'm bad and I'm taking down the bad guy.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's so sweet.
Oh my gosh.
That's so sweet.
Oh.
That's so sweet.
Stacy, do you have a question for us?
I do. So this is going to actually be more handler focused. So, and you could, in any kind of either a deployment or a sport or anything, right? Where you felt maybe you were a little taxed as a handler, and maybe you felt kind of down because you felt really taxed, but then you were able to get yourself out of it. So I'll tell you a story because you're probably like, what? Right. So, I'm going to tell a story about National Invitational. So this is the last time NACSW had a national. It was back in 2017. And to go, they had a 2-year qualifying period. And what happened is based on your elite score, it would rank you after every single elite trial, and you would move up and down the rankings. And they were just going to take, the top dogs. And so we worked for 2 years to stay on that list to get to go to nationals, right?
Wow.
We got there, and I don't remember what day. I think it was like the last day of nationals or whatever. And there was this big search area called the Great Outdoors. This is how I remember every little bit. I even remember the name of the search because it was so, actually, it was so upsetting, right? And everybody came back from that search, and I heard them say, that was the best search. They're like, that's the reason I do nose work, right? And then people saying, because we had an off-leash option. They're like, I just let them loose. I just let them rip. That was the best search. And they weren't telling me about the hides, but they were telling me about this amazing experience. But they were also telling me how they went off leash. So I'm there with Judd. Judd did not have a recall. He didn't have a recall at all. He did not. And you know what? I think he was part hound. I don't think he was pure Labrador. I mean, of course, I did the DNA and it came back a quarter Bouvier, which was total crap. Right. Definitely not. But I think there was hound in him, and he was kind of like a backwoods special. Right. And so I get to the line, and what do? Well, take him off leash, because I had all that stuff going in my head. I just clipped the leash off, let him loose. And then I'm like, crap, my dog's off leash. Oh my God. Right. So the first thing he does is he starts sniffing, and I'm like, oh, at least he's sniffing. Right. But he sniffed something, and it was my anxiety over letting him off leash. I call alert. And I got to know, because there's nothing in the area, right? And I'm like, oh, there's a no, right? So I know that my points are down. So I'm like, okay, well, he's off leash. We're kind of going, right? And finally, I finally like called him over. He thought he was being in trouble. Because I was like, Judd. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking I'm going to lose my dog, because they said, well, it's sort of secure, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my dog. So I put the leash on him. Meanwhile, I'm like totally out of it. And we end up, he's like climbing the wall, like this fence, right? He's climbing this fence. And I look at the judge and I said, is this in play? And he says, yes. I said, alert. He says, no. Like, oh my God, that's 2 hides. So we go, we find, I think we found like a total of 3 hides, right? And then we come back. It turns out it was an 8 hide search, which is the kicker, right? So then he goes, and now he's sticking, there was a flatbed trailer. There were all these pipes. He's sticking his nose in the pipes. I'm like, oh my God, there's got to be a call alert. I get my 3rd no. So here's the thing at that level, that if you get 3 false alerts, you're out. You're done. Not only that, but you have lost a half a hide's worth of points every time you call a no. So now I'm down to a 1.5, like 1.5 hides worth of points. And the search, I happen to have 8 hides. I knew at that moment I trashed nationals. That's it. We're done. Right. It was the lowest I had felt in that entire trial. And it was actually because I listened to Parking Lot Chatter and how everybody just had this amazing experience. And even though they had a positive experience, it got in my head in the wrong way. And I went back and I felt the lowest I think I can remember in trialing, because we worked 2 years to come. And it was over in 7 minutes or whatever, right? Well, actually less than that, because we got 3 no's. So we're probably out of there with 3.
Oh.
So I had to sit there and I stewed. I'm like, you know what? Pull up my windows. I'm just listening to my music. And I listened to this. I had 1 more search left to do in the entire trial. And we go, and it was Stroh's Pillars. I remember the name of the search. And we get there, and I have video of this. We get to the line. I knew there were 3 hides. And it was this humongous warehouse area with all these pillars, of probably like 50 pillars. And I'm just going to, run him the way I am. I'm just focusing on me. I'm focusing on him. He leaves the start line, immediately gets an odor, alerts up a pillar. We get a yes. I'm like, whoa, look at that. Right. So we start to go to the corner. He's building up some steam. I take him off leash, because we were indoors. Right. We could search off leash indoors. We just couldn't search off leash outdoors. And he books it down the row. He comes to like a bunch of dumpsters, and he's an odor again. I call alert. I get another yes. Then ask him to find another. He goes over. There was like a hand sanitizer, sticks his nose up there. I call alert. I get a yes. I call finish. And the whole place erupts in like applause, because it turns out, I hadn't known this, but I guess that had been a very painful search for a lot of people. And he just did the entire search in 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And that is how I ended nationals. And it was one of these things where I went from the lowest to one of my most special memories, searching with him in the span of, I don't know, a couple hours. And it was just like, so is that mental shift. So when I tell people about like how you really have to really stay focused and really stay in the moment and not listen to, the noise around you, I use that story because it is that transformation between that I feel I've never felt so low searching with my dog to I've just about never felt so high searching with my dog. And so I wanted to share that with you guys.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
That was a long story. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, I like long stories when they're that awesome too.
Yeah, no kidding.
It was special. It was special.
So whose turn to answer next? Is it mine?
It's
or yours?
clockwise. Clockwise. Crystal.
So I heard it as a challenge that you've had. So the challenge I had that really was one of those moments where I thought, why am I even doing this? I had been doing buried with Yukon and I was balancing how many to do, blah, blah, blah. And I thought I set up a very easy problem. I used a ball field. So I knew exactly where it was in this dirt. There were a bunch of ruts because people had done naughty things and driven their cars and such. It's like, why do people do that? By the way, don't do that. Like, I don't get what the kick is about all these
Be
people.
kind.
Yeah. Why do people like have to drive their cars on wet ball fields? Like, what is the fun in that? I don't get it. Soccer fields, whatever. So anyway, we're in the dirt of this ball field and I buried, it was just a little mason jar, maybe about 3 inches deep, put loose dirt over it, let it age. Supposed to be super easy. It's getting dark. Very end of the day, we finished training all the dogs and I send him after it thinking a nice motivational search. Oh my gosh, 30 minutes later, he still can't find it. And he's telling me it's not there. So not just not finding it, but telling me it is not there. I'm not going to search anymore. And I'm like, yes, we are. So it just ends up, I'll shorten the story. He doesn't find it. I put him up. And then I'm thinking, do I have to go dig this field out? Because now it's dark and I didn't expect it to take that long. And so Nancy, my best friend, gets her German Shepherd out, who has never done cadaver work before in his life. He comes over, he sniffs the cooler where the cadaver stays, and she says, let me see. Her German Shepherd, Ben, goes out and finds it in 2 minutes.
Whoa.
Does a trained final on it because he understands articles and IGP and
Right.
lays down exactly where it is. The thing that Yukon, who's been trained on this for almost a year, could not find and said it's not there. Yeah, that was a moment.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Now, how did I bounce back from that? I don't think I have.
It's an ongoing process, right?
It is. No, I did bounce back. I looked at, his trigger stacking and I looked at other stuff that had been going on. He'd been having a lot of stuff with Checkmate and there really was a lot that he was dealing with. And I had to look at my dog and really assess what had been going on in our like daily life. And I set another problem up, a couple days later and he was fine. And, it just in that moment, holy cow. And I know Ben is an incredible dog. Like I know Ben is incredible and Nancy
Ben's
is one of the
amazing.
best trainers
Yes.
ever. Yeah. But still, come on.
Yeah.
But
Okay, Robin.
trigger stacking is real, yo.
Oh,
It is.
it is a real thing. And it was a great
It is.
lesson for me to say, okay, just because this is a fresh moment for me does not mean it's a fresh moment for my dog. So that
Right.
was my big learning moment from that.
Yeah.
Because they had just gotten in a scuffle the day before, and that doesn't leave in just 24 hours. It takes
No.
48 hours
No.
just to clear that stuff out. And so,
No.
yeah.
I'm not going to tell a story because it's not my turn, but the fact that I was just looking at a video last night of a search that Brava and I did, and I had just had a very serious car accident like a day or two before that. And looking at how I searched, I'm like, whoa, we are just, both of us were out of sword.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I totally, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I was like almost to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, this is just not how we search. And it was,
Right.
Yeah. Those challenges. Oof.
yeah, all of that.
Okay, Robin.
Okay.
Yep. Your turn, Robin.
So my crash and then rise thing, right, was I think it was Moses's first attempt at an FSA. So fundamental skills assessment. So for those of you who don't know, FEMA search dogs go through 2 levels of certification. We have to do a fundamental skills assessment, which is like 7 stations and everything from a 5-minute long down to can you climb a ladder to a rubble pile search. And we made it through everything, and we got to the rubble pile search, and things just did not work. They've got to do, it's usually 2 people up and over, out of sight, and then we finish the pile. Something didn't work. And super duper bummed, because there's always this pressure of, you have to certify your dog. If you don't get your dog certified, the team can't go out the door. And so I was listening to a lot of people from all over the place about how to train my dog. And I made a decision on the way home of, I need to stop listening to everybody else, and I need to listen to my dog. And he will tell me what we need to do. And I spent about the next 2 to 3 months going and training in different places and just working, being like, okay, this is the thing I think we should do. And Moses would always respond with, yep, Mom, now we got it. We're good. And we went out and nailed the next test. And
wow.
Right. And so that was one lesson that he taught me, that you can go out and you can get all of this great advice and all of this stuff and listen to all of these people who know all sorts of stuff. But at the end of the day, the animal that you should really be listening to is the dog. And he very much taught me that, Mom, if you've got my back, I got yours, we can go do it. And so that lesson has carried through with a lot of the other dogs that I train, and even trying to help students figure out how to listen to their dogs, because that's kind of the thing that, we do, because they don't speak our language. So we have to figure out how to speak theirs.
Yeah. So we need to wrap this up. And this has been a whole lot of sharing. And it's kind of hard because we were telling stories. All the stories are takeaways, but I'm not really quite sure what we do with this in terms of a takeaway, but maybe we could just say one thing that we just kind of just sums it up for us. I think personally, I think these memories are really important. And I think, reflection is huge. And when we start to reflect, when we start to remember, it triggers a lot of other things, a lot of other feelings, and it triggers gratitude and it triggers growth. So how about you guys?
I'm going to just say one word: relationship.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I heard so much about relationship, and I could listen to you guys tell stories all day long. All the relationships you have with your dogs, it just inspires me.
Yeah.
I'll just say, that.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
you're supposed to say ditto. You're good at saying ditto.
Ditto.
There we go.
There we go.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to us share stories, and maybe we can share more stories in the future. Let us know if you enjoyed them. You can get on our Facebook or our Instagram, and you can comment. Always know that we have a website you can go to listen to our podcast and all your different favorite platforms, caninedetectioncollaborative.com.
And I will actually also put out there that if you have questions you want us to tell stories about, comment in the thread on the post, and we'll do story time part 2, and we'll tell stories about those questions.
And I really want to hear everybody else's stories. Yeah, we can also put a post up to hear everybody else's stories.
That'd be awesome.
That would be really cool.
Answering the questions that we just answered. Yay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Check out the website. We'll talk soon.
Canine Detection Collaborative.
We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to caninedetectioncollaborative.com. That's K9 detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.